that? Well, I just want to focus attention back on Keir Starmer for a few moments. Over the last couple of my UK column news, I've been talking about this man, obviously trying to drag us back into the EU, but also military unification with the EU. We raised some questions about why these Ukrainian individuals knew him and were targeting. So they're Ukrainians. Surely we are friends with Ukraine. One appears to be labelled as a rent boy. Not quite sure what that means. But we also said on the side, we've got the UK military simply executing people by means of drone strikes in Aleppo. But this was the key point that I raised, that we had to go to the Jerusalem Post and Middle East media in order to find out what the UK was really up to. This was the Jerusalem Post talking about a meeting of a political advisor, Charles Smith, with the Syrian Defence Ministry. It was also reported here at the media line, trusted Mideast news, but it wasn't reported in UK media. So we started to ask questions about what was going on, and we were particularly interested in what the UK public wasn't being told. And of course, this is clearly that now we've got the British military engaged to help what has been a terrorist organisation to build up its military capability. This was the man who was simply described as a political advisor. Well, we can now reveal that this man is actually an army officer. He's been an instructor at the Land Warfare School at the British Army. If you go to LinkedIn, you can actually have a look at more of his career. And then when we know who he is, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, we can find that he's been taking part in other meetings in the Middle East. This is in Lebanon. But clearly, the UK media does not want to talk about these behind the scenes but very high level meetings to restructure policy in Lebanon and Syria itself.
Just leave that image up on screen for a moment, Brian. A nice little bit of Orwellian newspeak. To support Lebanon's stability, that means instability.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. If you don't know what they're doing, try using the statement that it will be the opposite of what they say. So basically, UK public is kept in the dark about what's going on. This is actually the report from the from Lebanon itself at the time. So we've got more information about what was going on here, meeting with senior Lebanese and UN officials. But no, we don't want the UK public to know about this. People can have a look at this after the news, and we'll put this up on the notes to UK column news today. But here we are, Defence Attaché Lieutenant Colonel Charles Smith. So that's what's been happening in the Middle East. But closer to home, we've got changes in the structure, the high-level structure of the British military. And we've got Sir Gwyn Jenkins now in post as First Sea Lord. Forgive me for this, but I couldn't resist the resemblance. I'd like to know whether we've got the UK military being run by an officer and gentleman or Rambo. It would have been nice if he could have got into some decent uniform in order to present himself to the public, but I think Rambo wins. And then, of course, in the background, we've got our illustrious king, can barely stand up due to the weight of the medals, but presumably he's helping to lever these interesting people into post. And I just want to end with this segment, which I just find astonishing. Of course, recently we had Sir Ben Key stepping down, apparently, as the boss of the armed forces. And in the Telegraph report, he's quoted as saying, "I am unhappy with the state of the Navy." But of course, the Sun went for the jugular and said, "Navy shock. Head of Royal Navy suspended over, quote, secret affair with subordinate as married dad of 3 faces misconduct probe." Now, notice that the junior officer, who I believe is female, but I don't know that for certain, she's not named, even though as an officer she was also breaking the rules, and silence on that. But there was the man breaking his own rules in having a relationship with a junior female officer. Let's have a look at this video clip where a young lady was in great distress due to some really unpleasant sexual bullying on board a submarine.
This report from Sky's Sajid Chowdhury contains explicit descriptions of sexual harassment.
That I sort of woke up to was like a bit of a fumble that was going on as an officer senior to myself was trying to get into my bed and kissing me.
2 years after this interview with Sky News, the Ministry of Defence is making changes. Sophie Brooke, a former submariner, told us sexual harassment, assault and misogyny was commonplace in the Royal Navy's submarine service.
I'd said a number of times to various people, I'd rather be dead than going on this patrol.
Today, the MOD admitted a problem. It said a report into Sophie's claims marks an inflection point for the Royal Navy.
My initial reaction is I am appreciative of the full and unreserved apology that the First Sea Lord has given me. It means a lot to have had that, both verbally and in a written letter, an acknowledgement of everything that had happened. And yeah, just I think relief that it's finally come to an end.
That's the investigation. But Sophie says the impact of her experience inside the Navy's submarines doesn't go away.
I was punched in the kidneys while I was on the periscope. I had someone licked my ear while I was again on the periscope. And then I had the same person also put their penis in my pocket whilst I was doing my job.
Today, the head of the Royal Navy issued an apology. He said, "The investigation has confirmed misogyny, bullying and other unacceptable behaviours did occur during the investigation period, and this is intolerable."
So for our audience, the incredible situation inside the British military that the man who made the apology to that young lady, as well he should, for the obscene abuse she suffered, is the man who's also breaking the rules himself. This is complete breakdown of the military structure. This is not accidental. This is orchestrated, and the UK column will dig into this more in the future. Patrick, I watched your expression as that apology came up on screen. Truly unbelievable.
Incredible. I mean, this is the type of thing you try to avoid, right? In politics and institutions, not to have these situations where the head of the organization has to be exposed to that degree. Do normally resign, don't they? They do the honorable thing and quietly take their retirement, right?
Yeah. We'll do more. We'll say more in extra time on this. But Mark, let's bring